Welcome to another Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. I am Benjamin, and today I'm going to share with you a South Korean 1001 or Cheonan banknote. This banknote was introduced the 22nd of July in 1950. Korea, as a modern free government, was not very old, since the closure of World War II is what provoked its declarations of independence with Japan. And at that point, the U.S. and the other major world powers got involved in Korea like they did in Germany, and Korea was divided into regions. Nevertheless, this note was issued the 22nd of July, 1950, and it was withdrawn the 17th of February in 1953. The measurement of this note is 170 by 78 millimeters, and the colors of this note are green and light purple. The banknote book calls this a pick 8, or sorry, bank notebook. The bank notebook calls this a B8, or oh my gosh, I'm just losing my mind today. The bank notebook calls this a B205, while PIC, or Standard Catalog of World Coins, calls this an 8. There is very little security on this banknote. It is left to the colors and to the quality of the engraving. Any additional information I got from those two places was from Wikipedia as well. Now, on the face of this note, we have in Chinese text the Bank of Korea. And right up here it says Hangukun Hengguan, which means the Bank of Korea. And then you can see Western digits for 1,000, 1,000. And then down here you can see the Chinese character for Chun, or for 1,000. And depicted is Syng wearing hanbok. He was the first president of a free Korea from 1948 to 1960, and he was a bit of a dictator. He was born in Hwanghae-do, and very early on he joined groups that resisted the Japanese presence. But he grew up and led governments in exile, and when he was the president of Korea, he approved atrocious massacres against his own Korean people during the war, some say in the hopes of holding on to power even longer. His election in 1960 was seen as fraudulent, and so the university students of the nation led the April Revolution that saw him removed. He actually died in exile in Hawaii in 1965. Now, let's take this and turn it over. And while I am, turn it over in your mind whether or not you would like to subscribe to my channel. I have way more than 115 videos, and more coming all the time. The back of the note is simple, but it is very pretty. You see engraving, scroll work, beautiful flowers, and you see in English the Bank of Korea, and you see the denomination 1001. The flower here at the base is the Rose of Sharon, which is a kind of what do they call that flower? We call it a Rose of Sharon in the U.S., and it's called a mugunghwa in Korea, and it's in the hibiscus family, along with cotton flower and along with okra, of all things. So it's a beautiful rendition. Now let's go back to the portrait of Syng on the front of the banknote. Syng has one of those Korean names which can be spelled and pronounced several different ways, probably based on where you're from. He is notable for having his name transcribed in English with R-H-E-E, Ri Syngman, although he is also equally known as Lee Syngman. But in Korean, the R and the L are really almost the same letter of their alphabet. And then you could also have an N sound, Ni Syngman, or you can have no sound and just have the vowel sound E Syngman. So he has one of those names that is interesting. He is shown depicted in his hanbok, and you can see very clearly his chogori, which is his hanbok jacket that he's wearing right there, and his git, which is the band of fabric that is the trim, and the git would be this section right here that forms the collar. Now the white part of his hanbok is the Dongcheng, and that is actually a removable white collar. For some people it's paper, for some it's cloth, but that is the part that is exchangeable, and the Dongcheng would actually slide over the top of the Geet. Now, this note has some pretty underprint, and you can see by the series number 197 that this is actually in the series printed by the Bank of Japan. Series 1 through 500 was printed by the Bank of Japan, and then Series 501 through 591 was printed by the Bank of Korea, and I actually have both, so take a look at these. This is Series 197 printed by the Bank of Japan. This is Series 504 printed by the Bank of Korea. Do you see the difference? It's a much lighter color, and the underprint is a lot lighter. And the series number and the dojang, or the seal of the bank, is a little more darker on the second printing by the Bank of Korea. Now, this may be, gosh, it may even be counterfeit. Who knows? It was high value, although not for very long. Here's another printing of Series 528, and you can see that part of the underprint shading has come back. But in all three of them, you see a splendid engraving of a flawed man who led his nation to freedom, and then displeased his nation to the point that they removed him from power. If you have anything to say on this note, please subscribe and feel free to comment and say it. I used to live in Korea. I love Korea. Part of this man's story disturbs me, but it does not necessarily have anything to do with the banknote or the purpose of my channel. This has been Benjamin. This is Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. Please like and subscribe and comment on this 1001 banknote of the Republic of South Korea. Have a jewel of a day.